So Speak No Evil, which was the biggest new release of the week. Quick synopsis: this is again a Blumhouse Productions movie, starring James McAvoy, also like a mini *Halt and Catch Fire* reunion, because we have Mackenzie Davis and Scoot McNairy as the other married couple in the movie. And they come upon James McAvoy's family on vacation. They're all vibing. They're making fun of other people at the resort. They're really connecting. And then they are an American couple that has just moved to London and is feeling a little out of their depths. And James McAvoy and his family, they live in the West Country, which is a very nice, scenic, but also remote and sort of moody part of England, over in the southwest of England. And they say, why don't you come out to our country house in the West Country? It's beautiful. You can get out of London for a little bit. We can continue to build this friendship. You have people in England. Everything seems to be going great. So Mackenzie Davis and Scoot McNairy go out to the McAvoy house for a nice little weekend getaway. And what happens? Oh no. McAvoy and his family, they're do this weird. All the time. They're bad news.
They're weird.
They're bad news. And they're looking to prey on this family and do some bad stuff to them. Their son is running around, and it appears that he doesn't have a tongue. What's that about? You'll find out all about it when you watch the movie. We won't give anything else away beyond that. So that's Speak No Evil. It's a remake of the 2022 Danish film directed by Christian Tofstrup. Now, before we get into our review, Tofstrup, similar to with the Crow and Alex Proyas, Tofstrup came out this week and was just talking shit about this remake, which he presumably got paid pretty nicely for. He said he was unimpressed with the ending. He said the movie was sanitized for American audiences. Here's his quote. I don't know what it is about Americans, but they are brought up for a heroic tale where the good must win over the bad, and this version of the film cultivates that. He went on to say that changes that were made to the ending made it feel less dangerous and more sanitized for American consumption.
Unfortunately, he's spot on. The Danish film's ending is much more satisfying, and the Danish movie is much scarier, and this movie has been sanitized for American audiences. But that's my job, asshole. You stole my bit.
I would actually like to push back against this.
Well, hold on now. But
go ahead.
Guys. I'm talking to guys. Guys, directors. Be nice in public and mean in private like everybody else, you stupid assholes. You see Osgood Perkins, like, going on these interviews and acting holier
Director
than thou.
of Long Legs.
Yeah, and he's like shitting on Ty West, who and it's like that's my
what we
job.
Do.
That's my job.
You have to go to lunch with Ty West. We don't.
The Crow guy shitting on the Crow, like, fuck you. This guy shitting on this movie, fuck you. Blumhouse, Jason Blums thought your movie was good enough to remake with James McAvoy in it. That's cool. Your movie still exists. It's better than this one. This one's not bad. Fuck you.
That's the thing.
Fuck you.
Here's my pushback. Number one, the biggest pushback. Yeah. This movie's not bad. It's totally fine.
Yeah, it's good.
It's a totally fine remake of your movie.
I like this movie.
If wherever you want to rank them, this one is just a tiny tick below it. Like, if you think the original is a B plus, this one's a B. If you think the original is an A minus, this one's a B plus. It's like, it's a totally fine remake that is like only marginally below the original to me. Second of all, the director and star are British. I don't know where where it's about like American audiences.
Because the ending is just,
but like,
different.
it's not. It's like, there's I don't know. And then second, this thing about like good triumphing over evil being inherently American, that's like the backbone of narrative fiction since the Odyssey. What are you talking about? Like how is that? How is, like, sure, like, I get
Hollywood gives you a happy ending,
but he's playing on a very tired cliche of Hollywood movie making that is not sort of isolated to Hollywood movie making.
Why don't you just tell your fucking wife this in bed, or your friends at a dinner party? Why is he telling this to the press? That is so rude.
And third,
I don't get it. Sorry.
Third, sorry, I'm just gonna blow up my points here.
Please.
It's not like, because the idea of like sanitizing a movie, I think, is more valid when the original is like super impactful, and like the original Speak No Evil is fine. It's good. It's not like a masterpiece, and it's not like super, super impactful. And it's also not about some sort of like really important like political or cultural theme where sanitizing it would like take the meaning out of the movie. It's the original is a movie about yuppies getting killed on vacation. It's a horror premise, and you make that premise bleak, like bleak. And so because this movie is just like a little less bleak, that's fine. That's fine. Both can exist. And I actually like that both exist because, you know, I wouldn't say, like, going to Speak No Evil, this one with James McAvoy, you wouldn't watch it in isolation and say, oh, this is like a sanitized, playing it safe movie. It's not. It's dark and has dark parts to it. It's not as bleak as the original, but it's nice to have kind of slightly different tones that you can choose from, you know, when you go, if you want to go back and revisit these movies. It is bizarre that he came out this hard against what is a totally fine remake. That's what I gotta say.
I like it.
And that's, you know, I'm sort of, you know, embedded my review in that. It is a Blumhouse movie, so it's almost inherently going to be a good horror movie. Yeah, right. Not a great horror movie, but a really solid movie. It's also like, you know, I actually liked the changes that were made because what happened was this was a great movie to see in theaters with an audience. My audience was like, I had like an old school see a horror movie in a theater experience with this, where I saw it in a packed house at AMC City Walk, and people were talking back to the screen. There was like a lot of like, don't go in there kind of stuff going on in the audience, like a lot of like, oh, you know, when stuff happened, oh no, like there was a lot of like audible reactions. People were like really enjoying being there and watching the movie. There was a lot of like laughing at parts, but not like mocking the movie, just like enjoying the vibe, enjoying the horror vibe of the movie, enjoying how crazy it was getting, enjoying how just sort of jacked and wild McAvoy was throughout the whole movie. And if they had maintained the bleakness of the original, you would not have that response in the theater. You would have just like deathly silence as everyone sort of slowly dies on the inside. And so making it a little more Hollywood, I think, was a bonus because it made it more fun to watch in a theater.
His already exists.
Thank you.
It already has that ending, and you already did it.
You want a carbon copy of your movie?
Why do you want to watch the same fucking movie? Also, it is the same movie, but also your ending's better. That's fine. Why'd you have to say it to the press, you meanie? Here's my review.
Yes.
Or here's my added review. I like that your audience was emoting because I was emoting, and my emotion during this movie was multiple times of unforced arms moving up to my face, covering my eyes, and me like peering through my fingers, not at like the horror, but at the horror cringe. McAvoy's a master of scary, cringy guy, and this movie really just lives and dies on moment to moment James McAvoy's character being weird and cringy and uncomfortable to be around and scary, and that terrible, understated, seething with a smile sort of maliciousness that McAvoy does so enthusiastically and so well. It really is fun to watch, and his character really is like painfully awkward. And I also just wanted a quick shout out. McAvoy's obviously going to steal the show here, but as his scene partner, Scoot McNairy was a great liberal carpet for him to walk on. Yeah, he was like
Scoot
a great,
is perfect at that.
He was a great, like perfect. Unconfident of himself, sort of a guy that he could go along with it until it was too late and then suffer the consequences. I just thought that was effective. I thought he was fun and good, and the women were good opposite.
There was a lot
their
of
husbands as well. The acting was good,
and there was a lot of good because again, it wasn't a dumb. It was just like the only thing that it was it was less bleak than the original, but it wasn't dumbed down. There was still plenty of interesting like marriage stuff going on.
Yeah, but like I think ultimately though, beyond just comparing it to the first movie, I think that the third act, or more specifically, honestly, like the end of the movie.
Yeah, that's where the big differences are.
Didn't really give me that thump in my stomach that when I left the theater, I was like, whoa. It just sort of ended. Yeah. And it didn't end with some sort of like impactful moment. So I just left the movie going, that was really good.
But I think, like you said about Scoot, there was some very interesting stuff in his character in terms of he was doing that thing where like he's siding with like the like scary red flag other guy because it's the only other like other adult male in the room, like even to the extent of like siding with that guy against his like own wife. You know, that is such a like cowardly husband move. You know,
I like Scoot the cowardly husband.
Yes, that's like there were some nuanced moves around the marriages and the like marriage politics that I thought were really well handled and facilitated what is like kind of a hard plot to pull off.
It is because by the end, you know, the cliche, you know, don't go in there. We all know it's in there. I just felt like in this movie, in Act 3, the Scoot and what's his scene partner's name? I forget her name. I apologize. Those two were like, how could they keep going back in that fucking house? How could they keep like doing one more thing? And I know that at the end they were like threatened and they had to kind of, but it was quite repetitive, and it heightened nicely, and it really was engaging, and I liked the performances. But I do think it wasn't a great movie because it was repetitive. It kind of landed soft, and it didn't really thematically have any sort of impact outside of, oh my God, I would hate if this happened to me.
Mackenzie Davis.
Davis, thank you.
Let's talk, though, about the star of the show a little bit more, James McAvoy, because we got our first taste of just unhinged McAvoy in Split and then in Glass, which is 2016 and 2019. There's also a movie that I like that's underrated, Filth, which is based on the Irvine Welsh novel that came out in 2013, which was like dirtbag McAvoy. He didn't look like, you know, like a professional wrestler yet, but he was starting to do like dirtbag, you know, McAvoy in Filth. But starting with Split and Glass, we got this like shock of this like jacked up, crazy, ripped gonzo version of James McAvoy that was so intoxicating and bizarre and Split. And then we get it here again in Speak No Evil. And I have to say, this guy is on one. I am so team McAvoy. He's just such a remarkable, like, physical actor. I mean, you talked about the instrument before. This guy has nothing but instrument. From the face is so expressive, and then you combine just like the pulsing shoulder muscles and the body, and it's so threatening.
He was like
and
more
menacing.
ripped than ever in Speak No Evil. Like he was buff.
He was, yeah. And if there is, you know, the movie is not heavy on themes, but if there is there's definitely some stuff around masculinity because, you know, the only real explanation of why McAvoy is the way he is because his dad abused him, and then he's passing that sort of, you know, it's like cycle of abuse. He's passing that on to his son, etc. He's just a guy that just has like a lust for violence and domination is kind of what explains his character. And you can see that, you know, it starts out with little microaggressions and then builds to just, you know, outright sort of violence and menace by the end of the movie. But that sort of critique of masculinity is all the more powerful because of how sort of maxed out James McAvoy's physicality is. And I think McAvoy is now presenting directors with a rare and unique opportunity if they cast him in their movies, which is that, you know, right now there is sort of this, I think, reductive split among Hollywood actors where on one hand you have your Timothy Chalamets, you have your baby girls, your rodent boyfriends, and then on the other hand you have your Dwayne The Rock Johnsons, your Jason Stathams, your alphas, your Batistas, red pill UFC adjacent military industrial complex spokesmen, and never the twain shall meet. Those are the two camps, you know. I think McAvoy presents a very interesting possibility of a middle ground for directors that they can get a lot of interesting stuff out of, where he has the physicality of this side of things, but he has the sort of range and emotional maturity and intellect of this side of things. And so I would love I hope the directors are paying attention. I hope, you know, and look, I hope, you know, Blumhouse gets more. Blumhouse kind of is the one that cracked this code. I hope they are able to give him more stuff to do. But there's a really interesting opportunity, I think, in McAvoy as a performer moving forward, because this dude, he shows up. We know he's ready to go at 2 weeks' notice to do Split. He is electric. He is terrifying. He is unselfish as a performer. I really hope people write stuff with him in mind because this guy shows up and he gives unique performances in a sort of male actor landscape that is getting increasingly sort of divided into these two camps. I think he is providing an interesting middle ground, and I hope to see him more stuff.
Great actor. Tons of range. Love it.